Hi everyone, welcome back. Happy Sunday. Obviously I have a cold. Sorry, we're gonna work through it. Please excuse my voice. We're gonna do our best. But today we are continuing in the book of First Kings. We're gonna read chapters 4, 5, and 6. If you remember last week, King David died. His son Solomon became king, and shortly after that he was, praying, and what he asked the Lord for was wisdom. He didn't ask for riches or power or anything else. He asked for wisdom from the Lord, and he was rewarded for that because he wasn't asking for things for himself per se. Uh, God said that's you will have great wisdom. There will be none like you, and you're also I will give you riches and long life and all those things. So that's where we are now. King Solomon is very wise. Chapter 4. Solomon was king over all Israel, and these were the officials he had in his service: Azariah, son of Zadok, priest. Please forgive me on these names. Elahireph and Ahijah, sons of Shisha, scribes. Jehoshaphat, son of Alud, chancellor. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, commander of the army. Zadok and Abiathar, priests. Azariah, son of Nathan, chief of the commissaries. Zabud, son of Nathan, companion to the king. Ashar, major domo of the palace, and Adoniram, son of Abda, superintendent of the royal labor, of the forced labor. Solomon had 12 commissaries for all Israel who supplied food for the king and for his household, each having to provide for 1 month in the year. Their names were the son of Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, the son of Decker in Makaz, Shalbim, Bethshemesh, Elon, and Bethshahan, the son of Hesed in Aruboth, as well as in Sukkah and the whole region of Hefer, the son of Abinadab, who was married to Solomon's daughter Taphath and all the Naphath Dor, Bana, son of Ahilud in Tanakh and Megiddo, and beyond Jokmeam and all of Bethshean, and the country around Zareth, Ethan below Jezreel from Bethshean to Abel Meholeth, the son of Geber in Ramoth Gilead, having charge of the villages in Jair, son of Manasseh in Gilead, and of the district of Argob in Bashan, 60 large walled cities with gates barred with bronze. Ahinadab, son of Edo in Mahanaim. Ahimaaz, who was married to Basmath, another daughter of Solomon in Naphtali. Bana, son of Hushai in Asher and along the rocky coast. Jehoshaphat, son of Peruah in Issachar. Shimi, son of Elah in Benjamin. Geber, son of Uri in the land of Gilead, the land of Sion, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan. There was one perfect besides in the king's own land. Some different Bibles have the verses in a slightly different order. You'll notice the verse numbers jump around here, but the text is always the same. Chapter 5. These commissaries, one for each month, provided food for King Solomon and for all the guests at the royal table. They left nothing unprovided. For the chariot horses and draft animals also, each brought his quota of barley and straw to the required place. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sands by the sea. They ate and drank and made merry. Solomon ruled all over the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines, down to the border of Egypt. They paid Solomon tribute and were his vassals as long as he lived. Solomon's supplies for each day were 30 cores of fine flour, 60 cores of meal, 10 fatted oxen, 20 pasture-fed oxen, and 100 sheep, not counting harts, gazelles, roebucks, and fatted fowl. He ruled over all the land west of the Euphrates from Tipshah to Gaza, and over all its kings, and he had peace on all his borders round about. Thus Judah and Israel lived in security, every man under his vine or under his fig tree, from Dan to Beersheba, as long as Solomon lived. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for his 12,000 chariot horses. Moreover, God gave Solomon wisdom and exceptional understanding and knowledge as vast as the sand in the seashore. Solomon surpassed all the Canaanites and all the Egyptians in wisdom. He was wiser than all other men, than Ethan the Ezrahite or Heman, Chalcol, and Darda, the musicians, and his fame spread throughout the neighboring nations. Solomon also uttered 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He discussed plants from the Kedar on Lebanon to the hyssop growing out of the wall, and he spoke about beasts, birds, reptiles, and fishes. Men came to hear Solomon's wisdom from all nations, sent by all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. The next section is called Preparations for the Temple. When Hiram, king of Tyre, heard that Solomon had been anointed king in place of his father, he sent an embassy to him, for Hiram had always been David's friend. Solomon sent back this message to Hiram. You know that my father David, because of the enemies surrounding him on all sides, could not build a temple in honor of the Lord, his God, until such a time as the Lord should put these enemies under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord, my God, has given me peace on all sides. There is no enemy or threat of danger. So I propose to build a temple in honor of the Lord, my God, as the Lord predicted to my father David, when he said, It is your son whom I will put upon your throne. In your place who shall build the temple in my honor. Give orders then to have cedars from Lebanon cut down for me. My servants shall accompany yours, since you know that there is no one among us who is skilled in cutting timber like the Sidonians. And I will pay you whatever you say for your servant's salary. When he had heard the words of Solomon, Hiram was pleased and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, who has given David a wise son to rule this numerous people. Hiram then sent word to Solomon, I agree to the proposal you sent me, and I will provide all the cedars and fir trees you wish. My servants shall bring them down from the Lebanon to the sea, and I will arrange them into rafts in the sea and bring them wherever you say. There I will break up the rafts, and you shall take the lumber. You, for your part, shall furnish the provisions I desire for my household. So Hiram continued to provide Solomon with all the cedars and fir trees he wished. While Solomon every year gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat to provide for his household and 20,000 measures of pure oil. The Lord, moreover, gave Solomon wisdom, and he promised him that, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, since they were parties to a treaty. King Solomon conscripted 30,000 workmen from all Israel. He sent them to the Lebanon each month in relays of 10,000, so that they spent 1 month in the Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the draft. Solomon had 70,000 carriers and 80,000 stonecutters on the mountain, in addition to 3,300 overseers answerable to Solomon's prefects for the work, directing the people engaged in the work. By the order of the king, 5 large blocks were quarried to give the temple a foundation of hewn stone. Solomon's and Hiram's builders, along with the Gamalites, hewed them out and prepared the wood and stones for building the temple. And chapter 6, Building the Temple. In the 480th year from the departure of the Israelites from the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, the construction of the temple of the Lord was begun. The temple which King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 wide, and 25 high. The porch in front of the temple was 20 cubits from side to side, along the width of the nave, and 10 cubits deep in front of the temple. Splayed windows with trellises were made for the temple, and adjoining the wall of the temple, which enclosed the nave and the sanctuary, an annex of several stories was built. Its lowest story was 5 cubits wide, the middle one 6 cubits wide, and the third one 7 cubits wide, because there were offsets along the outside of the temple, so that the beams would not be fastened into the walls of the temple. The temple was built of stone, dressed at the quarry, so that no hammer, axe, or iron tool was to be heard in the temple during its construction. The entrance to the lowest floor of the annex was at the right side of the temple, and the stairs with intermediate landings led up to the middle story, and from the middle story to the third. When the temple was built to its full height, it was roofed in with rafters and boards of cedar. The annex, with its lowest story, 5 cubits high, was built all along the outside of the temple, to which it was joined by cedar beams. This word of the Lord came to Solomon. As to this temple you are building, if you observe my statutes, carry out my ordinances, keep and obey all of my commands, I will fulfill toward you the promise I made to your father David. I will dwell in the midst of the Israelites, and I will not forsake my people for Israel. I will not forsake my people Israel. When Solomon finished building the temple, its walls were lined from floor to ceiling, beamed with cedar paneling, and its floor was laid with fir planking. At the rear of the temple, a space of 20 cubits was set off by cedar partitions from the floor to the rafters, enclosing the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. The nave, or part of the temple in front of the sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. The cedar in the interior of the temple was carved in the form of gourds and open flowers, and was of cedar, and no stone was to be seen. In the innermost part of the temple was located the sanctuary to house the Ark of the Lord's Covenant, 20 cubits long, 20 wide, and 20 high. Solomon overlaid the interior of the temple with pure gold. He made in front of the sanctuary a cedar altar, overlaid it with gold, and looped it with golden chains. The entire temple was overlaid with gold so that it was completely covered with it. The whole altar before the sanctuary was also overlaid with gold. In the sanctuary were 2 cherubim, each 10 cubits high, made of olive wood. Each wing of a cherub measured 5 cubits, so that the space from wingtip to wingtip of each was 10 cubits. The cherubim were identical in size and shape, and each was exactly 10 cubits high. The cherubim were placed in the innermost part of the temple with their wings spread wide, so that one wing of each cherub touched a side wall, with the other wing pointing toward the middle of the room, touched the corresponding wing of the second cherub. The cherubim, too, were overlaid with gold. The walls on all sides of both the inner and the outer rooms had carved figures of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. The floor of both the inner and outer rooms was overlaid with gold. At the entrance of the sanctuary, doors of olive wood were made. The door frames had beveled posts. The 2 doors were of olive wood, with carved figures of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. The doors were overlaid with gold, which was also molded into the cherubim and the palm trees. The same was done at the entrance to the nave, where the doorposts of olive wood were rectangular. The 2 doors were of fir wood. Each door was banded by a metal strap, front and back, and it had carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, over which gold was evenly applied. The inner court was walled off by means of 3 courses of hewn stones and 1 course of cedar beams. The foundations of the Lord's temple were laid in the month of Ziv in the 4th year, and it was completed in all particulars exactly according to plan in the month of Bul, the 8th month, in the 11th year. Thus it took Solomon 7 years to build it. So we're going to stop there. That's the end of chapter 6. So whenever you hear about, the temple or King Solomon's temple, this is the description of it being built. This is the one they're talking about. It must have been an incredible sight to see. I'm going to put some pictures right now, just showing artist renderings of what they think it would have looked like based on this description. And just imagine being there to see that in person would have been so incredible. And to know that that your king there was so chosen by God and blessed by him to give him the wealth and the provisions to be able to build such a temple had to have been incredibly special. And it's just kind of crazy to think about. But anyway, on that note, let's go ahead and close and say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. All right, I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday, hopefully without the head cold. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.